Hello everyone, welcome to Tranquilly Coding. Today we're going to learn how to create a simple intro onboarding screen in Jetpack Compose. So this is a demo how the intro will look like. So we have three skins for the intro. Each of the skin contains a blob in the background, then an image, a title, subtitle, the indicators, an action button, and from the second and third screen there is a back button. So this is all the components. I collected these images from StorySet and I have generated the blob using a blob maker. So this is a blob generator. You can actually generate any blob you want, any shape you want from there, and you can just download the code from there or download the SVG image. After that you can export into Android Studio. So let's start creating our onboarding screen. Our project setup is done, the build is complete, and we have our preview here. As always, if you miss any of the code in the video, there is a GitHub repository created for this project, and you will find all the codes with documentation on the GitHub repository. The link will be in the description, so don't hesitate, just look in the GitHub, and if you don't understand anything, write down in the comment. We're going to create three separate things. The first one will be a splash screen. We're going to use the splash screen API, and then the second will be our onboarding screen, and third we will add shared preference or data store preference to store the value of whether we shown the onboarding screen to the users or not. So you will have a clear concept how to start the app with the splash screen, then go to the onboarding for the first time, then dismiss the onboarding, save it into the preference, and then go to the main screen. After that, only the splash screen, then the main screen. So this is going to be our plan. We're going to add the splash API first. So let's add the splash implementation. We have added splash screen implementation. This is Android X Core splash screen, and this is done using the version catalog. If you don't know about version catalog, check out this video. You will know the full details about how to use version catalog and what it does. So now we're going to create the splash screen using the splash API. If you don't know about that on either, there is separate 3 videos for Kotlin, Java and Jetpack Compose available in the channel. You can check those videos as well. I already set up the logo in Figma. So what we need to do is, for any logo that doesn't have a background, we need to take a frame of 288 pixels, and inside that we will create a square of 192 pixels, and inside that we will create a circle of 192 pixels, and then we will place our icon inside that circle. So this will be our appropriate size of the icon, and this is how we should format it. Now we need to remove all the excess part other than the logo, and we will remove the background from the frame. Now you can export it as SVG, then import in Android Studio, but we're going to use a shortcut. So we will use Android Vector Travel plugin. So select the whole frame, not just this part, the whole frame, and then copy the code. Now create a drawable and paste the code over there. So we have our splash icon set. Now we need to create a theme for the splash screen. This is our splash theme. It is the parent of theme.splash screen, and we have 4 different parameters. The first one is the background color. So this will be the background color when the splash screen is loading. You can mention any color you want. You can have like 2 different variants for values normal and values night as well. And then the splash logo, that is our logo, this one. You can also use the animated vector drawable, that is possible as well. And then you add a splash screen duration. This does nothing, it's just a parameter that is useless. And lastly, we have the post splash screen theme. So this is the theme that will be applied to the project after the splash screen is done. Now inside the manifest, we need to change the theme for our launcher activity. So the theme is onboarding Jetpack Compose theme for the main activity, but we're going to change it to splash theme. Alright, it's set so far. Now let's install the splash screen. So we'll just call install splash screen. So we need to just call install splash screen and our splash screen is set. I cleared the whole thing and removed all the auto-generated code over there. Now let's test and see if it works. When you run the project directly from Android Studio, the splash screen won't show at the first time. So you need to close and relaunch it. Now you can see our splash screen is shown. Let's try again. And yes, we can see the splash screen. So our first part is done. Now we are going to the second part and create all the composable for our onboarding screen. First, we will create a shield class to store the onboarding model. Now we will create our 3 separate data objects. This is our 3 data object for 3 different set of onboarding screen. So this is our lorem ipsum demo text for title and description, and these 3 will be 3 drawables that we will get from Figma. So now let's get them one by one. Now we need to export these things one by one. So first I want to group these 2 and then copy the whole XML code and paste into a drawable. You can see we get the image properly. Now it is the same for the other 2. This is our second one and this is our third one. So this is the easiest way to export image resources, but it is little bit inefficient in some cases. So this method is sometimes bad. We have some warning in here, you can see. So this warning says very long vector path, which is bad for performance. Sometimes we have this kind of issues with it. It will not actually like cause your app to crash, but it will somehow reduce your app's best performance, and it can actually conflict with some performance issues. So you can actually export it as normal drawable, PNG, or WebP. WebP is way less size than a PNG. So for now we're going to just stick with it, and let's change the title as well, because I have already created the title here. Okay, so our title and description and also the image is set. Now we can go to the next part. So we will divide our into screen into 2 parts. It will be a bottom part and the rest is the body. So the bottom part, it will contain this indicator and the button for navigation, and the top part, that will contain our images and text. So we will create individual composables, for example button, indicator, and then we will create these 2 parts, this part and this part, and finally we will merge them together and create our onboarding screen. First we are going to create the onboarding graphical UI, where the image and the title description will be. So this is our basic composable. It has a single parameter, that is onboarding model, and we have created 3 preview: onboarding graph UI preview 1, 2 and 3, and it will show our 3 different screens for the onboarding. So first we need to create a column. Inside the column, let's add a spacer to create some space on the top. So we added a spacer of 50 dp. Now let's create the image. So we have our image set for all of the 3 screens. Now let's add the spacer again. So we have a beautiful space between the text and the images. Now our text, first one is the title, second one is our subtitle. So the first text, it is our title text. So we use a text size of 20 sp, and then we use the style of title medium, and the color is on background. And for the description text, we use a font size of 16 sp with a style of body small and color of on surface. You can customize it any way you want. Let's add a spacer below. Alright, so we have our UI set for the header part. Now we need to create the individual items for the bottom part of our onboarding screens. Now let's create the indicator layout. So here we will pass 2 parameters, that is the page size, the total count of pages, and the current page. Now let's create 3 previews that will show us the 3 different cases of the indicator. And we can also pass 2 different parameters for selected and unselected color, but you can actually do it here as well. Let's pass as the parameter as well. So now we have our selected color and unselected color as parameter. We have set to default color so that these two parameter is not mandatory. Now we need a row this time because all of this going to be side by side. Let's create a row, and we added the horizontal arrangement to a space between. Now we want to run a loop over here. This loop will be repeat, and the repeat will create the sizes one by one. So it will be repeated according to the page size, so 3 times in total, and for each time I want to create a box inside it. So we gave a height of 16 dp. Then let's give the width of, for example, 16 dp as well. We will adjust the settings a little bit later. Let's just do that. So then we have our clip, and we will going to make it a rounded shape, and let's make it rounded by 10 dp. Alright, now it's time for the color. So color, here we're going to pass our conditions. So if it is the selected page, then the color will be selected color, and if it is not the selected page, then unselected color. So now we can see there is 3 dots and 3 separate states. This is the first, second page and third page. Now in our design we have a rectangular shape and 2 circular shapes. So now make one rectangular. To do that, we can increase the width as we did here with this condition. So we have added a condition that will trigger if it's current page, then the size will change. But this looks so much clustered. Let's add spacer in start and end of each element. Now we have a little bit space between all of them, and they will eventually look good. Let's just change the height to 14 dp and adjust this one to 32 dp. Now I believe we have a pretty good indicator. Next we have a button. So there is actually 2 buttons in this case. So first one is that, and second one is that. If it was XML, I would use a text view for this one and a material button for this one. But in Jetpack Compose, I will use a button for both cases. It makes the things little simpler. So let's create 2 buttons. So this is our basic composable. We have created a composable button function and 2 preview, one for the next button and one for the back button, to see if both cases works properly or not. So we have added some parameters. So first we have the text, that is a string. Second, our background color, text style, font size, and on click lambda. Now let's add the button. So in the on click, we will return our on click from there, and now we set the colors. So we have taken the button defaults, and from there inside the button colors we change the container color to the background color and content color to text color. So I made this rounded corner shape with 10 dp of corner radius. Now let's add our text inside the button. Okay, so now we have our text, font size and everything. Let's add a default string to see some changes. For example, next. Now let's add our preview. So button UI and another button UI. Okay, so if we remove the show background, it will show properly. So now let's pass on the parameters and see how things goes. This one is our default one. Let's change the second one and see. Now this is our default design that will be used for the next button, and this is our back button that has the background color to transparent, text color to gray, text style to body small, font size to 30. So now we can say that we have 2 separate buttons, or a single button that will give us 2 separate use cases in our onboarding screen. Alright, so our button is done, and I have committed this part of the code to GitHub. Now on to the next part. So here we're going to create the whole UI for the proper into screen, so the both 2 parts that we created will be merged together. Let's name it onboarding screen. As parameter, we're going to pass only a lambda as one intro finished, so that it can notify the calling function that the intro has been finished, and it can move on to the next part. Alright, so first we need all of the intro pages that we created for this purpose. So let's get the list. And now we want to save the state of which page we have been browsing. So in here we will be using remember pager state because we're going to use a horizontal pager to show all the different screens. Let's opt in for the experimental foundation API. This thing set up, we can now adjust all of the screens over here. Alright, so we have our screen. I need to do a little bit tweaking and put all of this inside a column. Now we're going to create a row that will contain all the other items that we have. As you can see, this is taking a lot of space that we really need, and this is taking a little bit space. It should be a little bit bigger. We can adjust that later. Right now let's focus on the next part and finish up. Later we can adjust all of this together. So we have added our horizontal arrangement and vertical alignment. Now let's place the item one by one. Alright, so we have added two buttons and our indicator UI, but as you can see, this has some issues with this alignment and the spacing. So how we can fix that? So now we have fixed it by using scaffold. So scaffold allows us to place item like in bottom bar, top bar, floating action, this kind of fixed places. So as these items are going to stay at the bottom, so we can use scaffold and place it at the bottom bar without conflicting with any other UI. And as for the middle content, we can use the content part and send this to the middle. Now we can align it using vertical alignment and center vertical. Now let's add some spacer in the front and in the back so that we can make it look a little bit beautiful. Now we added a padding of 10 dp and 5 dp to make little space in the front and the back. So right now it's looking okay, I will say. Now let's fix this UI, then we will go to the other parts. Now we make it fill max size and we can adjust this spacer, make it like 60 or 70 dp, and the image padding, let's reduce it to 30 dp. Now the image is a little bit bigger. Let's adjust it to be 60. Okay, so it is little bit better than before, but still not the way we wanted it to be. It's actually hard to properly match everything, but I guess we can nearly match those together. Let's adjust this to 80, reduce this padding to 20 dp. I guess right now this will look good. I adjusted it to 90, this to 20, this to 70. Okay, yeah, it's looking pretty good. Let's add some more padding in the bottom and the top. Okay, so this part is okay. Now we need to customize the buttons. We need another variable that will save the button state and give us the text for each of the state for each of the buttons. So in our case, we have next, next and start, and for these two, back, back and blank. So we have set like this. Now we need to set the button text to the proper button, and then we will set the on click. So for the first button, this one, if we're in the first page, so this won't be showing anything. So let's just put a boolean condition and then we can show it on that way. But if we put boolean value around it, then it will cause a little bit problem. As you can see, the indicator goes to that direction. So we need to add something that will hold it place like a column or a box, so that the whole UI, like the box and inside button UI, won't be invisible, but only the button UI will be invisible. Let's add a box here. Let's put all of this item inside their own separate box. Right now each of the element has their own box, but that actually ruined the UI a little bit. Let's fix it. For the first one, we want it to align at the start, for the middle one to the center, and for the last one to the end. Okay, so that looks good. Right now if we turn on the toggle for this boolean, I guess everything will be okay. As you can see, we don't have the preview for this one, but still it is showing properly. Now it's time to set the rest of the things. We need to set the button text and the button colors in all conditions. For the first one, the text will be button start.value 0. Value 0 means this left side values over here, not this 1 2 3. This is the index of current page, and value 1 that will come later, it will be this part of the text. Now let's set the text for the second one. Okay, so now we set the rest of the item, that is the background color and the text color. So for button 1 we don't want any kind of background color, so we want to put it color.transparent, and for text color we will put color.gray. And for the second one we want to do some other things, so we will be using the color primary, and here text color will be white, or we can say on primary. It will be the same result. For darker theme or lighter theme, it will change accordingly. Alright, so this part right now is good. Now we need to set the clicks for this next button and this back button that is currently invisible. So for that one we need to get a scope, that will be our Kotlin scope. When the back button is clicked, we want it to go back to the previous page. So if it is the third page, it will get to the second. If it is second, then go to the first one. This function is a suspend function and should be called only from a coroutine or other suspend function. That's why we use scope to launch this and then change the page with that scope. And we do the same thing in this here as well. So in here we check if the phaser is on the last page or not. If it is not on the last page, then we go to the next page, and if it is in the last page, then if you click this button, it will call the unfinished, and then you can notify your caller function to do whatever you want to do next. So this is our intro so far. Let's use it in our activity and see how it works. First, we need to create something in the activity so that we can see something after the onboarding is finished. So first, let's test with this toast. So the intro will be shown, the onboarding screen shown, then it will show a toast that onboarding complete. Let's test it, and then we can go to the next part of creating a data store preference where we will save the state that intro is shown or not. As you can see, our intro is here and it is behaving as we expected. Now we finish with clicking the start and a toast will be shown. Yes, onboarding complete. Now let's create something that will save our onboarding process and then show it only when the user launches it for the first time. Let's create a utils called onboarding utils maybe. We can use MVVM for that, but it is like too much for this purpose, so we're going to keep it very simple. Here I wanted to add data store preference, but that will make things a little bit complex. Data store preference best works with an MVVM structure, but we are not going to do all of this just for the intro, so we're going to just add the shared preference instead. Now our utils is set. From here we can check if the onboarding is completed, and then we can set the onboard to complete. Now let's set this function and do the rest. Alright, so we called our utils with lazy initialization, then we check if the onboarding is completed, then it will show the home screen, and if not, then it will show the onboarding screen. This is just a text with text home screen, and in the preview we just set it to show home screen. For the onboarding, we show the onboarding, and when it is completed, we set the onboarding complete in our shared preference, and then we use the Kotlin scope and launch and set content to the home screen as the main content. So let's test it and see how it works. Splash screen shown. Here comes our intro screen. It is scrollable and also clickable in all places, and then we finish, and here is our home screen. Now if we go back and clear it from history, open it again, it won't be showing anything on the onboarding because onboarding is done. So our shared preference is working, our code is working, and we have successfully completed designing and implementing an onboarding screen in Jetpack Compose. So let's recap everything. We first implemented the splash screen using the splash screen API. This is our implementation for splash screen. You can check it from here. And then we created all of the separate items here, here, and here. And then in the main activity, we show the splash screen using our utils. We check if it is shown before, and then we show the onboarding if it is not shown yet, and when it is done, then we set the onboarding to true, and after that we always show the home screen. Now you know how to implement a onboarding screen in Jetpack Compose. Thank you for watching Tranquilly Coding. I'll see you in the next video.